I never imagined I'd be here, sitting alone in a courtroom, fighting for something I worked so hard to build, fighting for something that used to be mine, that used to be ours. A year ago, I was just starting to pick up the pieces of my life, grieving the loss of the love of my life, Paul. We had everything, or so it seemed. We had a home, a family of sorts with our dog and cat, and a life full of plans and adventures. But now, I'm in the fight of my life, not for my health or my happiness, but for what Paul and I built together, for what he left me after he died. When Paul passed away, it was a shock. We never saw it coming. He was diagnosed with cancer, a rare form that no one had expected. We fought with everything we had. We stayed positive, stayed strong, but in the end, the disease won. He passed away quietly in his sleep, and I felt like my world shattered. I had always known we were lucky. Paul and I had built something wonderful together, despite the odds. We'd bought houses, sold them, and eventually settled in our dream home, a place we loved and could call our own. Paul wasn't just my husband, he was my best friend, my confidant. We had no children, but we had each other, and that was enough. But now that house felt so cold. The silence was deafening, and my heart felt like it was sinking deeper every day. Friends and family tried to console me, but no one could understand the pain. No one could fill the void. I was alone, completely alone. I would sit in that house for hours staring at the walls, wishing I could hear Paul's laugh again, wishing I could feel his warm embrace. I couldn't get the image of him lying in that hospital bed out of my mind. I couldn't erase the feeling of helplessness, of watching him slip away, little by little. But life had to go on, and the world didn't stop just because my heart was breaking. Slowly, I began to rebuild my life. I started working again, found some semblance of routine, but I couldn't ignore the emptiness that still lingered. It was almost a year later when I made the decision to join a dating app. It wasn't something I thought I'd ever do, but I was encouraged by friends who thought it would be a good way to move on. They said it was time to start living again. So I did what I thought I should, and I met Richard. At first, everything seemed perfect. He was kind, attentive, and seemed to understand my grief. He listened when I talked about Paul and never made me feel guilty for loving my late husband. Richard made me feel seen, understood, and like I was finally allowed to move on. 6 months into our relationship, Richard and I married. I thought I had found someone who truly cared for me, someone who wanted to help me rebuild my life. But the man I married wasn't the man I thought he was. The man I married was a liar, a manipulator, and worst of all, a narcissist. At first, Richard was everything I thought I needed. He encouraged me to go on trips with my friends, to spend time with the people who had supported me during my darkest hours. He told me I deserved it. He told me he understood how hard it had been to lose Paul, and he was so patient with me. But after we got married, things started to change. It wasn't immediate. No, he was far too clever for that. It was gradual, almost imperceptible at first. He started making small comments about my friends, questioning their loyalty, their love for me. He'd say things like, "They don't understand you the way I do. They can't love you like I do. They can't protect you." I didn't realize it at the time, but he was slowly isolating me. He was making me doubt everyone around me, even the people who had been there for me through the worst moments of my life. It wasn't just my friends that Richard targeted. He started pushing away the things I loved. My dog, who had always been my constant companion, began acting strangely around Richard. The dog, normally so loyal and affectionate, started growling whenever Richard came near. I didn't know what to make of it. I thought it was just an issue with the dog, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. A few weeks later, my dog mysteriously ran away. I looked everywhere, but he was gone. Richard barely reacted. He said, "It's just a dog, Louise. You'll get over it." The words stung, but I brushed it off. I had to. After all, it was just an animal. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. My cat, however, remained by my side. She was still affectionate, still my little comfort in the midst of all the changes. But even she seemed to know that things had shifted. She'd follow me around the house, curling up beside me on the couch, and watching Richard with wide, wary eyes. It was as if she too sensed something was wrong. I was starting to pull away from my friends, just as Richard had suggested. He told me they were no good for me, that they didn't understand the new me. I felt guilty for questioning him, for thinking that maybe he was wrong. He'd say things like, "No one will love you like I do. You're a widow and I saved you. No one else will take you on like I did." His words, once comforting, now felt suffocating, but I told myself it was love. It was just his way of showing he cared. That's what he kept saying, after all. Then things escalated. Richard began pressuring me to transfer my assets into his name. He told me it was for security, that we needed to protect ourselves for the future. He would say, "It's only right, Louise. We're married now. Everything we have should be ours together." But I knew something wasn't right. I had worked hard for everything I had, everything Paul and I had built, and now Richard was trying to take it. He even suggested that I wasn't coping well after Paul's death, that I was having a breakdown and needed professional help. He said, "I'm just trying to protect you. You need to be well to take care of everything." It was then that I realized I was trapped. I started keeping a diary, writing down everything Richard said, every little detail of what was happening, the manipulation, the gaslighting, the constant erosion of my confidence. It was all in there. And it became clear that he wasn't the loving partner I had thought he was. He was using me, using my grief, using everything about me for his own gain. He wanted control, and he would stop at nothing to get it. The emotional strain was unbearable. I could feel myself slipping, like I was losing my mind. I felt guilty for questioning him, guilty for not trusting him. Richard's manipulation was so subtle, so insidious, that I started to doubt my own reality. He would say things like, "You're not yourself, Louise, you're fragile. I'm just trying to help you." And the worst part, I believed him. For a while, I believed I was the problem. But one day, something clicked. I don't know exactly what it was, but I looked at that diary, at the evidence I had been collecting, and something in me shifted. I wasn't going crazy. I wasn't the problem. He was. Richard had been spinning me a lie from the beginning, and I wasn't going to let him get away with it. I started to fight back. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't fast. Richard's control over me had been so absolute, so all-encompassing, that cutting him out of my life took everything I had. But I did it. Slowly, painfully, I distanced myself from him. And when he tried to take everything from me, I fought back. I went to the police, I went to my lawyer, and now here I am, still in court, still fighting for what's rightfully mine. The process is slow, and the pain is still there. Every day I have to relive the worst parts of my life, my grief, my loss, and now the betrayal. But I am not the woman I was when I met Richard. I'm not the woman he tried to break. I am Louise, and I will fight for what I deserve. I will get my life back. The pain of losing Paul will always be with me. It's a wound that will never fully heal. But I'm not lost anymore. I am stronger than I've ever been, and I will reclaim what's mine. Richard tried to break me, but he failed. I'm still standing, and I always will be.